Live NFL trivia every Tuesday night on Twitch at 9 p.m. Eastern. Come show off your football knowledge and have a chance to win cash prizes. Check the link in the description to find out more. And now, on with our feature presentation. There are some sports that put in rules that deal with what happens when a game turns into a blowout. Youth sports, including Little League Baseball, have a mercy rule, stating that if a team is up by 10 or more runs after 4 innings, the game is over. In college football games between FBS and FCS schools, occasionally you will see the teams opt to play with a running clock in the second half if a game is out of hand. Even the World Baseball Classic has a mercy rule if a team is up by 10 after the 7th inning or by 15 after the 5th. But in the NFL, there is no mercy rule. You play the full 60 minutes, regardless of what the score is. Doesn't matter if you're up 59-0 or whatever the case may be. You play out the whole game. There was one Thanksgiving game, though, that was so bad and so much of a mismatch that afterwards, one player asked the league to put a mercy rule in. And this is the story behind that. This is the tale of what can only be described as a Thanksgiving bloodbath. First, we need some context heading into this game. It's November 27th, 1980, and we've got a Thanksgiving showdown at Texas Stadium between the Dallas Cowboys and the Seattle Seahawks. For the Cowboys, this is a big game if they want to keep pace with the Philadelphia Eagles in the NFC East. Philly is up 2 on the Cowboys with 4 to play. And while the Cowboys are pretty much guaranteed a playoff spot at this point, a loss here would all but eliminate them from the division title. As a side note, if you want to learn more about the highly controversial game that the Cowboys and Eagles had against each other that year, check the video out in the upper right corner. As for the Seahawks, yeah, they were not good this year. After going 9-7 in each of the past 2 seasons, and after starting this 1980 season off with a 4-3 record, it was looking like business as usual for the Seahawks, where they would be a solid team fighting for a playoff spot in the highly competitive AFC West. Then they dropped 5 straight games, and entering this Thanksgiving game, they were 4-8, and were all but eliminated from postseason contention at 4 back with 4 to play, and a loss here would have eliminated them officially, and as it turns out, that's exactly what would happen, and then some. In the first quarter, Danny White found Tony Hill on an 18-yard touchdown pass to make it 7-0, and that set the tone for the entire game. White threw his second touchdown of the day in the second quarter to make it 16-0, finding Billy Joe Dupree on a 14-yard strike. Ron Springs scored a 3-yard touchdown later in the quarter to make it 23-0, and Robert Newhouse scored a 3-yard touchdown of his own near the end of the quarter to make it 30-0. By halftime, the Cowboys were already up by 5 possessions, since there was no 2-point conversion back then. In the second half, Tony Dorsett scored not 1, but 2 touchdowns of his own, punching both in from 1 yard out. Dallas led 51-0 at one point in the fourth quarter after they scored 21 points in a span of 4 minutes and 39 seconds. Seattle finally got on the board to avoid a shutout, scoring a touchdown with 2 minutes and 30 seconds left in the contest. By that point, I doubt anyone was watching. Obviously, there are some games over the course of a season that are blowouts, but some blowouts are different than others. There are some blowouts where it looks like one team is playing a completely different sport. And here are just some of the lowlights from this massacre. The Seahawks turned the ball over 7 times, they got penalized 9 times, and Jim Zorn got sacked 6 times. At one point, the Seahawks displayed some competence, and were able to get it down to the 1-yard line. Despite having 4 plays to punch it in, they couldn't, with this being their 4th down play. The game was so ugly that Glen Serrano came into the game at quarterback for Dallas. Serrano was drafted in 1977, and had thrown a grand total of 1 pass in his NFL career before this game. 4 years and 1 pass thrown. If you want to see what that 1 pass was, here it is. It should have been a pick 6, but it was so badly underthrown that not even the defender could get there in time. He came into Thanksgiving to relieve Danny White, and threw a touchdown pass and had a passer rating of 156.2, which is just 2 points shy of a perfect rating. I made another video about Glen Serrano if you want to check that one out in the upper right corner. And of course, I have to mention this play. This might be the worst play in the history of Thanksgiving. At least with the butt fumble, that was not by design. Mark Sanchez did not mean to run into his own lineman's butt. Here, the Seahawks coaching staff knowingly drew this play up while back deep in their own territory and called it. There is so much about this play that is fascinating that I don't even know where to begin. From the wobbly pass back to Zorn, to the fact that there was no receiver in the area just as a safety valve, to the fact that number 72 on the play, Bullard, is running around like a headless chicken. It is amazing to watch. You find something different every time you rewatch it. The game was a 51-7 blowout. It was the most points the Cowboys ever scored on Thanksgiving, and the second most points scored all time on the holiday, only trailing the time that the Cleveland Bulldogs beat the Milwaukee Badgers 53-10 in a 1924 Thanksgiving game. The 44-point win was the largest margin of victory in Thanksgiving history. It was so bad that at one point, Cowboys kicker Raphaelceptian asked a nearby vendor for some peanuts. The vendor tossed him the peanuts, and he caught them with his helmet. I wish there was video of this. After the game, Seahawks head coach Jack Patera was perplexed, saying it was my impression that the Cowboys were always getting the ball on our 10-yard line. Tom Landry even felt bad for the Seahawks, saying it's hard to score that many points in a dummy scrimmage. I felt for Seattle. And then, there was Cowboys defensive tackle Larry Cole, who had been in the league since 1968 and was playing his 13th and final season this year, all of which came with the Cowboys. The Cowboys were dominating by so much that it wasn't even fun. Said Cole, "I feel like games should be called when one team gets 40 points ahead. I don't like to play in a game where it's that one-sided, because it's hard to keep your concentration, and you get to feeling sorry for the other team." He thought the game was so ugly that he proposed that the NFL put in a mercy rule, and he was on the winning side. That tells you everything you need to know about how dominant this performance was. Thanksgiving in 1980 was what I would describe as the ideal Thanksgiving for Thanos. It was perfectly balanced. In the early game, you had an all-time classic, and the first overtime game in Thanksgiving history, where the Chicago Bears trailed the Detroit Lions 17-3 entering the fourth quarter, but the Bears came storming back, with Vince Evans scoring a 4-yard rushing touchdown on the final play of the game to tie it up, and then Dave Williams returning the opening kickoff in overtime to give the Bears a dramatic 23-17 victory. And then, in the later game, you had, well, whatever the heck this was. Call it a massacre, call it a bloodbath, call it a landslide, call it what you want. But whatever it was so bad that one player was asking the league for a mercy rule. Be sure to like this video, ring the notification bell, and subscribe down below if you haven't already, as it helps the channel out a lot. And be sure to check out Twitch every Tuesday night at 9 p.m. Eastern for your chance to play NFL Trivia and win cash prizes. Link in the description below. If you want to see videos like this condensed down to 60 seconds, then follow me on TikTok at Jaguar9 and subscribe to 60-Second NFL History on YouTube. Also, special thanks to all of our Patreon supporters for helping with the channel. Your support is greatly appreciated. See what you can become a patron and request future video topics in the description below.